Hi friends, Angelica here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about Copic markers. I've been getting a lot of comments from crafters who are brand new to Copic coloring, and I thought that this would be a great opportunity to talk about the supplies that I use and would recommend, and share with you some color combinations which could help you decide on new markers you might want to include in your collection. Starting with ink, there's a huge variety to choose from. These are what I have in my craft room. You want to make sure that you're stamping with either a dye ink or a hybrid ink. I mostly invest in hybrid inks now since I like to Copic color and watercolor. Hybrid inks allow you to do both. I do have one dye ink, which is the Lawn Fawn Jet Black, and that it's an amazing ink. It stamps super crisp black lines, and I reached for that ink pad for probably 2 years straight. Now, I've ventured away from black ink in this past year, and I'm now stamping with hybrid brown ink. Brown ink just gives softer lines that I absolutely love. I have tailored expressions and my favorite things in my collection, though I think MFT has discontinued their milk chocolate. Gina K also has one in her Amalgam ink line, which I'm going to be picking up soon to try out because I absolutely love her black Amalgam ink. Now for paper, I use Express It blending card, which is the bigger sheet on the bottom. I have a Nina Soda White 110-pound panel on top so you can see the color difference. Express It has a cooler tone to it. It's also super silky. The surface is so smooth you seriously cannot feel any sort of texture on it. And Copic inks just soak beautifully into it. The ink stays wet for a little bit, making blending inks a lot easier than trying to blend inks on other papers. I started coloring on this paper over a year ago, and I just can't see leaving it now. It's that good to color on. And with that said, it is pricey. If you want to try it out, Ellen Hudson sells smaller packs in her store, so you can take it for a test drive at a more reasonable price because a full 125 paper pack is between $45 to $75, depending on where you're buying it at. My color chart is with me during every coloring session. This is Sandy Allnex hex chart, and this is probably the best investment I made towards my markers. I've learned so much about the Copic rainbow with this chart. It's not in a numeric order, rather Sandy's put colors that work well together in order. It's from this chart that I pick most of my color combinations from. You can find this chart over on her website. It's really inexpensive, and I would say this is a must-have partner for your markers. Her website is also full of coloring information, so I highly recommend heading over there and just taking a look around. I'll leave a link to her site down in my description. For marker storage, my markers sit on my desk right in front of me. I keep them in these containers that I found on Amazon. They're sold separately. I started with two, and then I would buy one when I needed more space. They come with clips, so you can clip them together on the sides and on the tops and bottoms. They're super sturdy. I can store stuff on top of them, and they work great for me. Now for color combinations, here's a few that I colored off screen. I built my Copic collection from color combinations shared by designers. If I saw a combination I really liked, I would write down the numbers, if they were shared in a video or on a blog, and when it came time for me to put in a Copic order, I'd have my list ready. I recommend buying markers in combinations. You're going to get so much more use out of your markers if you buy, let's say, three red markers that work well together, rather than buying three just random pretty colors. Copics are meant to be colored in combinations. Now, some of these combinations are only used seasonally. The greens, for instance, the top green I only use at Christmas time. The next green is perfect for summertime, coloring palm trees or tropical flower leaves. You also can get different colors by layering inks. So the top right pink colors are colored with the same three markers. I just put different colors under the first marker just to change that light pink to a darker pink or to a red pink. So the more you get into coloring, the more you're going to see how vast the world of color blending is. You'll find more details on these combinations and when I use them. Also, e-marker combinations over on my blog, which I will have a link down below. The swatch images that I've been using are from the Stamp Market's Color Me Happy stamp set, and this set does have coordinating dies. I thought I would swatch the colors that I'm going to be using in today's project while I'm recording and talk about flicking. Flicking is a word I use a lot when I'm coloring, but I've never described what that means. And flicking is a pretty big deal with Copic markers because of their fantastic brush tip. Let's start with the colors first. I'm using BG09, BG57, BG13, and BG11 for the blue-green colors. And then red is R29, R24, R22, and R20. For yellow, I am laying down violet first, V93, and then I'm going to color over that YR23 and then finish with Y21. That V is going to give a really nice shade. For the browns, I'm using the E47, E44, E43, E42, and E41. Okay, I've slowed the camera down to regular speed so you can see what I'm doing. And this is how I color. I always start, well, the majority of the time, I start with my darkest color. Now I'm showing you with my needlepoint where I'm going to put the next color. And I'm putting that marker on that color, and then I'm just dragging it with the lighter color. Now I'm going to do it again. See, I'm just barely at that line. Taking that marker, touching it to the darker ink, pulling it forward. Doing it again, almost at the line, grabbing the ink, pulling it forward, and with my lightest color, I push back into the ink. I push the darker ink away from the lighter ink. As soon as you touch your marker to paper, ink starts flowing. So you're going to want to start moving fast. You put your nib down, you move a little bit, and you lift it up. You flick up. You want the jagged lines that you're going to leave behind. With your next color, you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to touch the darker color. So you're mixing your colors together. You're going to grab it and again move forward and flick up. You want those jagged lines. They remind me of when I get my hair cut. My hairstylist, she cuts my hair at angles, leaving, a very slight jagged line. So my haircut looks natural, not forced with, really sharp edges. And that's exactly what you want with your coloring. Those flicks are what smooth your colors out. Okay, so we're going to use these colors to color this really sweet image from My Favorite Things Pawty Time stamp set. It's my daughter's best friend's birthday, and they just adopted a puppy, so I thought this would be great for her birthday card. I'm stamping it with brown ink. I'm using Tailored Expressions Chocolate Truffle. And when I'm going to make a simple card like this, I do die cut the panel first, so I know that I'm stamping it evenly. Starting with a ground shadow, I'm just using C3 and C1 to make a quick shadow to ground the image. And now I'm going to go into coloring the puppy. I'm going to use those E40 colors. Now, there seems to be an unwritten rule of using just 3 colors in color combinations. I'm a rule breaker, and and I'm okay with this. I hardly ever use only 3 colors. I want as much contrast as I can get. And if I can't get it with markers, I'm bringing in colored pencils. So with this puppy, he's getting all the colors. I used E47 to start the shadows, and then I'm going to use the E44 to start blending that dark shadow out. I'm using R20 and R000 to add rosy cheeks before coloring the puppy's face. I do like to have the cheek colors laid down under the main face color. When I'm using the darker colors, the E47 and E44, I am a little softer with the amount that I use. I don't take it out far into the puppy, but the lighter the markers get, the more aggressive I get with my flicks, and I start coloring faster, and I get that color spread out quickly. So right now I left the shadow around the dog close to the present, so he's kind of peeking around, and I want that bottom left area of his face to be the highlighted area where the light's hitting him the most, and which is where I'm going to put the lightest color. Now for where his mouth is, I want that to be even lighter, so I'm going to use the colorless blender, which is another thing that I have next to me with my color chart when I'm coloring, is the colorless blender. That colorless blender I just use to kind of push the color that I put around his mouth back into the paper and just lightening up that area a little bit. Now moving on to the yellow, since it is a smaller area, I am using the V93 as a shadow and Y21 as the yellow. So this is one of those rare times where I do just use 2 markers. And I love Y21 is such a beautiful yellow. It's very muted, and it's not bright dandelion in your face yellow. I use it a lot, and I usually use it with either YR23 or with a violet. And I love pairing that Y21 with a bright red. So I'm using R24 and R22 for the stripes on the hat, and then R29, R24, and R22 for the little ball on top of the hat. Now moving on to the present, the ribbon's going to be yellow, so I'm using V93 to mark out where I want the shadows to be on the ribbon, and the YR23 is just going to kind of deepen those shadow lines before I add Y21. I'm going to speed up the coloring of the present box, finishing the ribbon with the Y21, and then the box is going to be with that teal combination I colored before, and then the polka dots will be the red combination I colored. I am going to turn on some music while I finish this, and I will be back in a couple minutes. absolutely love how this little puppy turned out, and I'm sure little Ruby is going to love it too. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope I was able to share some tips and inspiration with you, give you ideas on Copic markers. If you liked what you saw, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, be sure you subscribe before you leave. I'll be back shortly with another video, so I'll see you then. Bye.